Hey everybody, long time no see. Um, Lots changed. I'm still struggling to try to make ends meet, no different than the rest of America. Um, my this statement comes from the reaction to the video that everybody was seeing about the overriding of the starving of the border patrol agents and all them, where the sea wire was moved over to one side, all that cutting wire, razor wire, and all that was moved over to one side, and hundreds of migrants bum rushed the small crew of border workers there, the Texas Republican Army, or National Guard. I don't really know which was actually there, which crew was actually there. Um, but here's the thing: there was about 4 or 5 of them that was guarding a particular door, and they got run over, almost Looney Tune cartoonish style, like some kind of comedy movie, like Born in East LA or something. The thing is that unlike that comedy movie, they were starving migrants who were so desperate for any kind of help that they were literally about to get gunned down by the small number of armed military personnel there. Okay? They were about to get shot. I mean, the guys were ready. They were hitting them with the butts of their guns. They were pushing them. Nobody was reaching for their weapons, but I'm sure if somebody did, that would have made a huge reason to excuse the military men there to open fire. Now, thankfully, nobody got hurt. You could see the small military personnel pushing and shoving migrants back and telling them to back off. While again, the migrants are starving and all this stuff, they're saying, help, help, we're hungry. And despite the fact that this took place, you've got somebody like my worthless douchebag of a Governor Greg Abbott, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who's saying this is an invasion, and we have every right to protect ourselves from an invasion. Except it's not an invasion, it's a bunch of hungry people who weren't even reaching for a gun, much less the military's guns, much less guns of their own. They were all unarmed. That's not an invasion. It is a call for humanitarian help, because it's a humanitarian crisis, not a migrant crisis, not a invasion crisis, not everything like that. It's a call for food. Now, our Texas military, we've got choppers. You seriously telling me we can't drop water and bags of rice and beans on the other side of that border? And I know you're thinking, well, shouldn't Mexico provide the beans? That was my first thought too. But I'm sure they'll participate in whatever, And if the migrants don't want it, they don't have to eat it. Like that pinto bean lady, Frida, I forgot her name, refried Rita or something that she was nicknamed. Guys, the only thing really overwhelming is the high numbers of migrants that have arrived by comparison to previous migration convoys. Yeah, it's a lot more. But we could have done a lot more by now to not so much resolve, but to handle this oncoming envoy of migrants. And I gotta tell you, it's another reason to just put the politicians in their place. This coming election, don't vote for the governors that are doing this kind of bull crap, calling it an invasion. That's a false claim. And only vote for the politicians that'll press charges on the governors and Republicans and Democrats that are all saying that this is an invasion. Okay? Because again, an invasion entails an army. And that's not an army. It's a bunch of starving people. These false claims need to be answered. And every single politician, political leader, needs to face charges on them for making these false claims. Okay? It's also life endangerment, especially like my Texas governor, Greg Abbott. He's calling these migrants rapists, thieves, traffickers, killers, murderers. And then he's immediately busing, training, and flying all of those migrants that are the so-called criminals into the states, into other states of the United States of America. That's a problem. Because with that came a small number of gangs. You know, according to the witnesses up there in the north, you could see all their gang tattoos all over their foreheads and all of their, all the way down their necks and all this other stuff. They're wearing shorts with chanclas. You could see all them up and down their legs that say, I'm a gang member. You know. And get this, they were placed there by my governor, Greg Abbott. So, I'm not voting for that douche. Okay? I'm going to vote for an entirely different guy. And, given the problems that have arose because of this, I strongly recommend all of you out there do too. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and drink at the same time. And I strongly recommend that we vote for politicians all the way up to the president that promise to press charges on these current politicians that are making a mess of things, starting with the ones that are making false accusations, making these false claims that it's an invasion, okay, and that it's a crisis, a migrant crisis, when it's a humanitarian crisis, okay? We need them to face justice because of this life endangerment stuff that they're doing. And even the Democrats up that are they're saying, oh, we're caring for them and all this stuff. Well, yeah, you're putting roofs over a lot of their heads. But at the same time, you're letting them also starve with organizations who are giving them rotted food, and transferring them to schools, disrupting American lives, and then to top it all off, not being able to handle the gangs that are causing inflictions and pain to the civilians. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. They had the right. I tell you about these Yankee states, these sanctuary cities. They had the right idea. Okay. But to cater to somebody like over in, I think it was Maine. I think in Maine or New Hampshire, where a resort was being used to house migrants. And the landowner kicked out all of the people that made the retirees that made themselves tenants, living off of their Social Security, being able to pay for rooms for the rest of their lives at $350 a week. They all got evicted for $750 a week, get paid for by the government to house migrants. That's also wrong. And this is a democratic, a sanctuary city and all this other crap. The politicians had the right idea, but they're catering to the corporate and business greed. And then they're saying, well, look, we're housing the migrants. You're welcome. You see the conundrum. Okay? You see the problem there. And that's the same thing that's going on in New York. It's the same crap that went on in Chicago. and completely ignoring the poor in what they called the projects, or just in the poorer neighborhoods, completely ignoring them while developing sanctuary facilities for the migrants, and then saying you're welcome. That's what those political leaders did. So they're really not too different. They're not any better. They're not worse than what Greg Abbott is doing. They're not worse than what DeSantis is doing. They're not worse than what Arizona Ducey is doing. But they're not that better, They're not that better. They're not even, okay, they're housing those migrants that are being dropped off. They're not doing background checks, criminal checks, not even COVID checks, any more or less than the politicians down here in the South are doing. They're being arrested, caged, and then they're being bussed, trained, and flown away without any kind of checks. And that's also wrong. That's the life endangering stuff that I'm talking about. Okay? They're rapists, they're murderers, they're killers, they're traffickers. But yet every single one of those politicians that made that claim isn't doing anything to prevent them from creating any kind of crime here in the States. In fact, they're permitting it. They're allowing it. And that's aiding and abetting. So, you can make this claim, you can make that claim, all you want. But if it's leading to life endangerment, and if it's being done to excuse yourself, to abuse your political power, then you, that politician, that political leader, needs to have charges pressed against you for those acts, and you need to be removed. Plain and simple. These political leaders need to be removed, and they need to be replaced with some political leaders that actually put in the work to handling the humanitarian crisis that's going on right now. Not just make up some stupid solution and be a bigger problem to our society by putting all of our lives in danger. It's as simple as that, despite the fact that it comes out pretty complex. So that's my spiel right there. That filming of the starving migrants running over the 2 or 3 the less than a handful troops. It looked funny. It looked like a Born in East LA kind of movie. It was pretty funny, but at the same time, it was serious. And I'm very glad that nobody got injured or killed. And I am very much in need of seeing anybody start with people like my governor, Greg Abbott, to start facing legal repercussions of this, because those troops could have killed. Those troops who were being stampeded, they could have been stampeded to death. Okay? This is very irresponsible. We really, really need somebody. It's getting close to getting out of hand, and we really, really need somebody to start putting the cuffs on these political leaders that are responsible for the chaos. Plain and simple. We already got cartels. We captured them. We used to capture them here in Texas before Governor Greg Abbott started interfering. And I know I've said this before in previous posts. I'm going to say it again. We used to have people like here in San Antonio, migrants were sent to the Joe and Harry Freeman Coliseum, and some traffickers would come up, and they were brave enough because of the simple fact that the facilitator holders were volunteers through a charity organization. So these traffickers thought that they could be very intimidating by telling them, hey, their families paid for them to cross the border. I need to get paid too now that they're here. I need you to fork over those migrants to me. They literally did that. And the volunteers toughed it out. They said, okay, wait here, fill out this form, blah, 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 called the police, and those jackasses got arrested. Okay? Technically, traffickers were being arrested before my worthless governor interfered. My worthless governor interfered by having them all removed, bused to sanctuary cities before they could even be background checked, and before traffickers could approach to say, hey, I'm a trafficker, and I have the audacity to say, you give me those migrants. Okay? They were actually doing that crap. And my governor ruined it. My governor ruined one of the most easiest ways to apprehend traffickers. He blew it. He ruined it. By putting these traffickers disguised with the starving asylum seekers on buses, on trains, on planes, and sending them out. Okay? Life endangerment. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Life endangerment. And these politicians, just like my governor, needs to face charges. All right. I'm out of here. This is Chris's comments signing out. Y'all take care. Take it easy. We'll see you next time.